Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we present to you the Alligator Adarsh and the Aardvark Adam with the Big Three podcast. Today we'll be looking at the white ball series between England and India, the Test series between Pakistan and West Indies, the BBL versus the SA20, talk of an Afghanistan boycott, and the future of James Vince. So, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I hope
Yeah,
the same's
yeah,
with you.
yeah, not bad. Thanks, not bad. How did you see much of the game yesterday? What did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a bit of it, and starting off with the first innings, I think that
Mm,
the ball didn't do as much as the England batters felt like it made you feel like it was doing because
mm,
Varun Chakravarti was bowling the ball like straight balls
yeah,
at length, and they were unable to just play him. It felt like
mm,
it felt a bit abhorrent to me. It felt like they were
mm.
going to struggle in the Champions Trophy if they're going to play like this.
That was very strange, wasn't it? Because there was a lot of optimism, and because whatever people think about McCollum as a Test coach, he seems perfect for the white ball team.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of kind of optimism. Also, he's friendly with Buttler, and they seem to have a good the kind of makings of a good partnership. I think it's been termed as bad Bazbot by some people, and so it looked good. But then yesterday it was like the same old kind of bad habits of not really being able to play spin properly. It's almost like unless it's a flat pitch and a spinner that's kind of innocuous, they do really struggle.
I
Um,
mean, did you see the India second innings? Because it didn't
yeah,
look like it was a spinning pitch to me.
no,
It was
no,
very close to a flat pitch, if not one.
yeah,
Because I just think, yeah, there's dew in Kolkata, and you're gonna get that if you're gonna play there. But still, I don't think that it was as bad as I think Butler batted the way you should have, and Brook
yeah.
batted. But yeah, I do not know how they're going to fare in these conditions. Coming on to India, well, what did you make of Abhishek Sharma's knock and
Oh,
Chakravarti's
that was
bowling?
very good. I suppose the bowling really was the thing that won the game
Yeah.
because that target was just. I think that might have even been what 50 under par. What do you reckon? Something like that.
70 under
Um,
par.
70 under par. Yeah, wow. So even more. So
Yeah.
they were always going to chase that, which made it a bit easier for Abhishek because there was less pressure. Um, so I think the bowling was the key, but they were the bowler and batsman both did a very good job. Um, England struggled
Yeah.
against that spin.
Um yeah, do you think that Gus Atkinson is a good T20 bowler? Because looking at him
Mm.
bowl, I just feel like he's still like undercooked for the shorter formats.
Yeah, that's a good point because he initially started for England in white ball cricket. He was like a kind of maverick option for the 2023 50 over World Cup, um, and then he became more of a Test player. And he seems like he's more suited to Test cricket, doesn't he? I
Yeah.
think maybe he doesn't have the variations yet as a white ball bowler. What do you think? Is he too predictable?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of that, and all I think that he bowls a bit like Scott Boland in that he's going to bowl
Mm,
at a length, and he's going to be a bit like he's not got the amount of variation like you said, and the amount of X factor which you need to be
mm,
good in a T20 game. Because if he's going to play in the IPL, which he was unsold in, you're
mm.
going to have a plethora of variations and be able to
Yeah,
deceive the batter. I do not feel like he's able to do that, and I'd pick Cars over him.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Do you think in a funny way? Wood is a bit of a similar story in the sense that he's played all this time. He's 35 now, and I don't think he has a slower ball, which is really
Who?
amazing. I think he can get some reverse swing,
Yeah.
but essentially it's just raw pace, isn't it? And sometimes on a flat pitch, it's quite easy in T20 cricket just to kind of to use that pace to the batter's advantage and score loads of runs.
Yeah, and also on Adil Rashid, what do you think
Mm.
of him? Because he's what, 37 now, 37, 38,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's been a really good servant for England.
mm,
He's been a really good big
mm,
part of England winning two World Cups and being
yeah,
the team that they were from 2015 to 2022 as a white ball side. But do you think that he's come to the end of his career now?
yeah. It's a good question. I think he's definitely past his best. Like you say, 37. He's had various shoulder injuries, but there isn't yet a candidate to replace him. Really, there's Rayan Ahmed, but
Yeah,
he hasn't played
and Matt
that many.
Parkinson.
And oh yeah, Parkinson. I think Parkinson. They've seen him now, and they've kind of seen enough of him really.
Yeah.
Um, but with Rayan Ahmed, he's potential, but hasn't played that much since his debut. So maybe they don't really trust him. And there aren't many other leg spinners really available for England. So I think that he's playing really because there's not really anyone better at the moment anyway. So they might as well stick with him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that looks like the case because they play him. It's a bit like Shoaib Bashir in England
Mm,
because they're not playing in the test side because they do not have anyone to replace him.
mm,
Also, what do you think about the Pakistan? Let's come on to the Pakistan West Indies test match now.
mm,
A lot of people have been saying this that they've prepared a pitch which was not good for test cricket. Now, to address that, like I always say, and I said that before as well, that I do not
mm,
think a test pitch should be judged like that because I'd rather have this game than the pitch which was there at Multan against England,
mm,
where they scored 823. I think this is better for the game, and this
mm.
policing of pitches is just not right, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. And the thing is, Pakistan are gambling a lot on the toss, aren't they?
Yeah,
And so it's not like they can fix the toss or anything. So one day they might be on the wrong end of it, and they'll be up against it. So um, it's not so much of an advantage in the sense that if they lost the toss, maybe Windies could post a score and win the game. I know England won the toss against them in the third test in December, and still didn't win. But you would think these pitches are really kind of weighted to a side winning the toss, aren't they? Really?
yeah, you do think that, and yeah, I mean, in this game, if you look at the West Indies batting, it just feels
Mm.
like a dire show from them. And
Yeah,
I know we had that podcast with Jarrett last week, and we were talking about how there should be three divisions and all that, and it just looks
yeah,
like the need for that is even more warranted now because uh, you just look like how they bat and look at how they bat, and it feels
mm,
like they're not meant to be playing with the top
no,
six nations. And
no,
it's not in a way that's condescending towards them,
no.
but I just feel like as a top level side they're just not up to the mark anymore.
I think the bowling attack when everyone's available, the seam bowling attack is up to the mark,
Yeah,
but their top seven is really poor. It must be that their worst ever top seven in their history,
yeah,
and I don't think it's as good as anyone's in the top nine. I mean, Brathwaite used to be a good opener. I don't know what's happened to him. He's kind of fallen off a cliff over the last year or so.
yeah,
But Carty, Louis, Athanase, Hodge, they aren't world class batters. I think they wouldn't get into like a county side or a Sheffield Shield side. I don't think so. That they're obviously some batters aren't available like Shea Hope and Puran, so they would make a difference. But since those guys aren't available, it's not a top level batting lineup at all. Funnily
yeah.
enough, I think their 9, 10, and 11 were top scorers in the first innings, which was the first time that ever happened or something.
Oh, I didn't know that. Also on Pakistan, what do you think about Babar Azam's like constant barren form? Because I think he's not scored 100 for 1.5 to 2 years now in Test cricket, and he
No.
just looks like he's not coming back to how he used to be in 2021. And a lot of people are saying he never used to be good, and I think the
Yeah.
notion is getting stronger by the day.
I think it's a bit unfair on him because when he came out, he was very good, and
Yeah,
definitely white ball wise, he was sensational. But
yeah,
he seems to have tailed off in the last couple of years, and you never know if this is something that's permanent or they can come back. Um, because I'm trying to think of other players who've got to about 30, and you think, well, they're a batter, they can go until 35 and still be good. But for some reason, it doesn't work out, and maybe he's like that. In this game, in the first innings, he got out and reviewed it, and I thought, oh, he mustn't have touched it, but he had. It was a bit weird. He edged it to the keeper, and still reviewed. I don't know why he did that. Maybe that's like a sign of his mindset. Um, but he didn't look comfortable at all. And you would think if he's not going to get a 100 here, where is he going to get 100 really? Um, because he's up against like Warwican, Moti,
yeah, yeah,
Greaves. Holder
yeah,
pulled out of the tour, so there's no Holder. So
yeah.
if This isn't
Yeah,
like an amazing attack at the moment.
yeah. I mean, it feels a bit like he's been bogged down a lot by the external pressures which have been put
Mm,
upon him. Like there have been like a million different coaches under his good tenure, and the bad phase that he's had right now, and
yeah.
also the fact that he's not scoring runs. So yeah, I just think he needs. People are saying he should be dropped. Do you think it's time for him to be dropped, or does he deserve a bit more time in the
Well, the
Pakistan
funny thing
side?
was that he was dropped for the last two tests against England, wasn't he, in December? And he's come back. So
They
I
didn't
don't know. If,
say he was dropped. They said
ah,
he was rested.
ah, but wasn't it really the same thing? Or,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think I'd be tempted to keep him for a bit longer just in case, because he was really good at the beginning, and I just be I'd err on the side of caution and keep him for a bit longer just in case he gets his form back. What about you?
Yeah, I would keep him for the second test. Is there a second test?
Yeah, yeah, one
Yeah,
more
I'd keep
test.
him for the second test and then just see how it goes after that. Okay. So on the BBL versus R20, which is another topic we are getting on to. Uh,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the BBL has been around for a long time now, and I've
Mm,
watched it a lot as well. It's kind of a cultural icon in Australia, and it's
mm,
watched a lot in Australia, whereas
mm,
SAR20 just feels like an extension of the IPL. So I think it's
mm.
hands down a no-brainer call for me that the BBL is better than the SAR20. But of course, I think the SAR20 is somewhere near one of the elite leagues that's around, unlike, say, the IL20, which I'd not watch if you paid money to watch it.
I think I think the BBL when it first came out was clearly the second best franchise league in the world, wasn't it?
Yeah,
When they had Gale playing in it, and there was almost a stage where it was
don't
almost as
blush,
good,
baby.
wasn't it? And it was what? Sorry.
Yeah, he said, right? Don't blush, baby. That's what.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. His famous interview. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there was almost a stage where that was almost as good as the IPL, and then it seemed to taper off a bit. I don't know what the reason is. And then since then, you've had these other franchise leagues come out. I think quality of player wise, the SA20 is as good as the BBL, isn't it? Um, I think you've got Joe Root there, haven't you? Um, you've got a few other good players there who are probably as good as, or maybe even better than some of the people in the BBL.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. But they've got higher salaries than the
Yeah.
BBL. But with the SAR20, you've got it. Like I said earlier, I just feel like it's a bit of an extension of the IPL and
Mm.
not a tournament of its own.
Do you think
And
there's
that,
something that matters in the sense that the BBL is truly an Australian tournament?
yeah.
Um,
You see the
y-
Australian public coming
mm,
out supporting their teams, and it feels like it's a real tournament. But yeah, the SAR20 is also good. Anyways, um, in terms of commercial status, I think that the BBL is still, like, because of its longer time
mm,
being around, it's still bigger than the SAR20. But I think the amount of turnover they make is higher with the SAR20. Anyways,
mm.
I just think that both the leagues should prosper a lot, because ultimately they favor countries where maybe yeah, Australia cricket's doing well, but South Africa need the money, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I
Okay.
agree there.
Yeah. Also, I've heard a lot of people from the English Parliament talk
Mm,
about how they should not be playing against Afghanistan.
mm,
Yeah, that just feels like political gesturing to me, because they're
mm.
just trying to score points from this.
Yeah, there's been a number of MPs that have kind of written to the ECB or made statements calling on England to boycott the ICC trophy match. They're in the same group as Afghanistan, um, and also I think there was noise from the South African Cricket Board, not suggesting a boycott, but saying the ICC should actually step in and enforce their rules properly in terms of having countries play cricket who have both a men's and women's team. So does seem to be a bit of pressure growing. But the other day, Buttler said a boycott wasn't the way to go. He wasn't going to boycott it, and he was just taking the lead from the ECB, I think.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I saw the interview of Nigel Farage with
Mm,
Talksport, and the guy, the presenter who was there, he constantly kept saying that he was trying to uh, implicate Faraj, but he was not directly
Mm,
taking his name and saying that he's trying to be a political point scorer. And
mm,
uh, if you're going to go to the moral line, like I've always said, and I'm going to
mm,
maintain this, you should not be banning Afghanistan from cricket,
mm,
because it's the only source of joy that exists in Afghanistan for one half
mm.
of the population. And I do not see what good one achieves by removing the joy of one part and making both the parts suffer. I do not see how making the other part suffer makes the one part, which is already suffering, feel better. So yeah, I do not see how that's productive. How about you?
I think that, and also I think people need to kind of think about why they're doing it. If they're doing it purely to punish Afghanistan, then the idea of a boycott works, even though, like you say, it will harm the whole country rather than just half of it as it's harmed at
Yeah.
the moment.
And plus, they
But
do not
the other
care.
people, there's what? Sorry.
They do not care. The Taliban
Yeah,
do not care.
that's the thing. That's what I was going to say. Someone said that this would make the Taliban rethink.
Yeah.
there's no way the Taliban are going to rethink their policy, because their policy on women's cricket comes from their policy on women in general. So
Yeah.
they're not going to like not allow women out the house or make sure women are covered up, but then allow them to play cricket. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit weird. They think that the Taliban might make an exception for cricket for some reason. It's really bizarre that they're not the type of kind of like a kind of flimsy Western government that just does things for votes. I mean, that they are kind of entrenched in their views, and they're not going to move away from them just because you stop them playing in the ICC trophy. That wouldn't even be in their thinking.
Yeah,
It would not
and
change for that reason.
it feels even more ironic because I think there was the statement that came out from Hibatullah Akhundaza, their supreme leader, that they were going to ban cricket in
Yeah,
phases, and that just
yeah,
felt like, okay, the ICC is not the ICC. People are really smart that they think the Taliban will care about them
yeah.
banning, just doing the job easier, making the job easier for the Taliban. Yeah, I think
And when the Taliban were there initially, they banned cricket as well,
yeah, what?
before 2001. So yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah. Okay. So on the Taliban, there's some things which the BCCI has copied from the Taliban and has implemented some
Oh,
Taliban-esque rules, because they've said that the players cannot travel with their families because apparently women are too big of a distraction for them on tours, and they need to play in domestic matches to be selected on tours and play the IPL. Also, they cannot have baggage above 150 kgs, and they have to travel with the team. They cannot stay in different hotels. So yeah, it just feels
Hmm.
like it's a crackdown which isn't necessary, because I don't see how any of this is going to translate into performances. What?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think years and years ago, when I was young, this used to be an issue. Sometimes England would allow players' wives on tour. Sometimes they wouldn't. And I remember one series in South Africa. Atherton said that they were okay for the first few tests. Then at Christmas time, the wives came round. In those days, there were wives and kids. They didn't they really took girlfriends there. So the wives and kids came round, and it distracted the. He Atherton said it distracted the team, and he felt they kind of were a bit off the mark in that last test, and they lost it for that reason. So that was the thinking in those days. Also, in those days, it was a bit peculiar to miss a match or a series because your wife was giving birth. That would never be an issue then. They think that was a bit odd. But now it's so different. It's strange to hear that kind of those views coming back. It seems like you can't really unscramble an omelette. We don't live in those times anymore. Players will just a well played player who can play any franchise league he wants. If he has a choice between his kind of family security and playing for his country, he'd probably take his family security, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's really true, and it just feels like they're trying to win the hearts of the Indian right wing nationalistic middle aged man, because that's what they're trying to achieve. And there was this debate. I know for people who do not know of this and are living outside of India, there was this debate on a very popular mainstream media of India kind of channel where they talked about all of this, and they were glorifying how they were going to be now disciplinary and be hard
Mm.
on the players. And yeah, it just feels like a political kind of move, and I do not see how this is going to be productive in any way. So
Was there
yeah.
any talk of the wives distracting the players in the BGT?
Yeah, I think it's been going around for a long time. Virat travels regularly with Anushka Sharma, his wife, and
Mm,
uh, I think this was in the 2015 World Cup. India got
mm.
eliminated, and people were constantly booing her and just shaming her all around because she was around and she was supposedly the reason why India didn't get to the final. And it got to a really bad point, and then Virat had to step in and talk about all this. So, yeah, the Indian audience is really, really misogynistic, kind of.
Oh well, but I think these things usually happen when a side loses, don't they? You're always looking for kind of reasons, and sometimes the reasons a bit more spurious than the more kind of obvious reasons.
Yeah, definitely. They do happen more when a side loses. Um, okay. And Kevin Peterson wants to be the batting coach of India.
Yeah, what's the thinking there? Are the Indians interested, or is there much kind of demand for him in India?
Yeah, I think people here would think it's a joke, and I do too. So yeah,
He's one of those guys who was a really top player, but I don't think he's really a people person. And I wonder how he'd get on dealing with people, especially people. I mean, there's a lot of good Indian batters, so they wouldn't necessarily be worse than him. But sometimes people who are really skillful have problems, transmitting those skills to people less skillful. So that wouldn't be the case with someone like him talking to Kohli or someone, but maybe some younger player who can't do the things that he could do. Would he be able to kind of transmit that knowledge properly, or would he be a bit frustrated?
yeah. I do not think he'd be the man for the job. He'd be kind of like a like for like replacement for Gambhir, and that's not what we need.
Although he does talk a lot about rhinos, so maybe he can bring
What
rhinos to the attention
I
of
didn't get
people in
you.
India.
What I didn't get you.
He talks a lot about rhinos now. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. He did an entire 1 hour session with Virat Kohli about rhinos, so I have
About
heard about
really,
it. Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember he missed England winning the 2022 World Cup. He said, I didn't see it. I'm glad they won, but I was in a safari park looking at rhinos."
yeah. Oh, okay. And to cap off today's podcast, we are
Mhm.
going to talk about the predicted score for the T20 series versus Pakistan versus England. But why Pakistan? India versus England. So yeah, I think India is going to win. It's a four-match series, right? Four or five match?
Five T20s
Yeah,
and
five
three
match series.
ODIs.
So I think
Yeah,
India is going to win 4-1.
I think 4-1 is a good bet. I might go 3-2. I think it might be 3-1 going into the last one, and England win like a consolation one at the end to make it
Okay.
3-2.
Yeah,
Um,
and the highest run scorer will be, in my opinion, Abhishek Sharma. Yeah, I think he's going to be the highest run scorer, and the highest wicket taker will be uh, Arshdeep Singh.
I can't really argue with that. Um, I think I'll probably go along with you. I was hoping it was going to be someone like Buttler, but I don't think so. He'll probably be England's leading run scorer, but not the leading run scorer in the tournament in
Yeah,
the series. So
yeah. Okay, so we tried to make this episode a little shorter because there's no ongoing big events going on. So yeah, I
although there
think
is one more issue though, we forgot James Vince.
yeah, James wins. Yeah, uh, he got a 100K contract in the PSL, right?
Yeah, so he's no longer going to play red ball cricket in England anymore, and he's actually moving to Dubai now as well. So he's not even going to be living in England anymore. So
Yeah, I
we're
mean,
going to miss him really.
when do you think he's coming on to our podcast?
Yeah, oh that would be great. I don't know. I hope one day he does. Um, but we'll never
Yeah,
know.
shout out to him.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll see you guys next week. Till then, bye.